Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf. I'm joined today, as ever, by Riley Fessler and Minna Stein. How are you guys doing?
I'm well, thanks.
Pretty good.
Oh, that's good, Minna. We're gonna kick off with you today.
All right, sounds like a plan. A federal judge dismissed the Justice Department's cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, ruling that the prosecutor appointed by the Trump administration was invalidly selected. The decision represents a major setback to the administration's efforts to pursue charges against two longtime Trump critics, though officials say they plan to appeal. Both Comey and James welcomed the ruling, while the White House criticized it as an unprecedented move based on a quote-unquote technical issue.
Yeah, well, those technical issues like the law. But this was expected by a lot of people. Doesn't mean they won't keep doing these crazy things. Because part of their goal is not necessarily to win the case. Part of the goal is the publicity around the case so that people think these people are in trouble, and putting the people through some penalizing process. You don't have to be found guilty in a case like this. The case doesn't even have to go to trial. Because you're going to end up having to spend money on lawyers, and you're going to end up having to spend time on this, and you're going to end up having your reputation damaged by it. And so that's what the government is doing in these cases. They win even when they lose. At least that's their thinking on it. The what comes next, part of it is complicated by the fact that on the Comey case, at least, the statute of limitations ended the day after they filed the case. So there is some question about whether should they find another person to bring this or another way to bring this, they can even do so in his case. There's a little more wiggle room on the Letitia James case. Riley?
A U.S. official confirmed that Ukraine has agreed to the core terms of a peace deal brokered by the Trump administration intended to halt Russia's assault. Negotiated by U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll in Abu Dhabi and Geneva, the revised proposal reportedly requires Kyiv to cede the Donetsk region and forego NATO membership in exchange for strong U.S. security assurances similar to Article 5. Ukrainian National Security Advisor Rustam Umerov voiced optimism regarding the breakthrough, stating that a common understanding has been reached and President Zelensky hopes to finalize the agreement in Washington later this month. Despite the progress, Moscow has not yet formally agreed to the terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in these discussions, one needs an enormous amount of caution. On the one hand, often the administration will announce progress on something or a deal when vital details are not resolved yet. And so we have to see about that. Secondly, of course, getting the Russians to agree to anything is a big hurdle. And many of the things that were crucial to the Ukrainians, like security guarantees, may be anathema to the Russians. At least they have been thus far. So, getting us from here to there seems like a long way. And indeed, this whole process seems like a kind of weird negotiation where the U.S. agrees to terms with the Russians, leaks them, discovers the Russian terms, go to the Ukrainians come up with other terms. Now they have to go back to the Russians. But there is something more important here, and that is that Russia has not honored any of the agreements pertaining to this or virtually anything else that they have signed in recent years. So getting Russia to agree to something, in a document is only, at best a temporary solution when they decide they want to break it again. And remember, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was an abrogation of prior agreements, not to mention international law. So unless the guarantees for peace, security, are as strong as, say, Article 5, which, by the way, has some holes in it, then, getting from here to actual lasting peace seems even further away. So progress is always good. Peace is better than war. But we are quite a distance from this being something to pop a cork over. Minna?
The Trump administration has ordered a comprehensive review and re-interview of all roughly 233,000 refugees admitted under President Biden, halting their path to permanent residency and potentially revoking refugee status if they are found not to meet criteria. The memo justifying the review claims the Biden administration emphasized speed and volume over thorough vetting, a charge strongly rejected by refugee advocates who call the new policy unnecessary and cruel. This move accompanies Trump's broader reversal of Biden-era refugee policies, including slashing the refugee cap to a record low 7,500 and prioritizing admissions of white South Africans, a decision widely criticized by Democrats and humanitarian groups.
Yeah, and people with eyeballs and people with consciences. This is just part of the Trump administration's absolutely draconian and inhumane approach to immigration. But it is more than that. By reviewing all of these cases, essentially the word is going out that as American governments change from one political party to the other, the agreements made with the last government become open to question. And this is something the Trump administration has done on a wide variety of things. And what it does is it erodes international trust in the United States. It also makes it much less likely that people in the future, should they consider coming to the United States, living in the United States, working under the terms of some future government, they're going to be much more skeptical that the terms will be honored because, if, the next president of the United States is a Democrat and then 4 years later, J.D. Vance or somebody else comes in and they say, nope, we're undoing all of that. Well, would you move your family? Would you uproot your whole life? No. And as I say, this is associated with a broader range of things where things like trade deals or other kinds of bilateral agreements have been abrogated by this government, or commitments to multilateral institutions or commitments to multilateral treaties. And, we don't really think enough about how much of U.S. influence really hinges on the idea of trust, that the United States was a reliable partner, that the United States behaved in a way consistent with its own laws. And if that is gone, what is the soft power cost to the United States? And I think the answer to that is very, very high. In fact, I think it'll be many decades before the U.S. can restore the degree of trust from our international partners, from individual people who are considering coming here or living here, or working here, for that to be restored. So this is not just bad policy; it's got bad long-term ramifications. Riley?
The Trump administration significantly escalated pressure on Venezuelan President Maduro by designating the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. This move is the latest step in a campaign to combat drug trafficking, with U.S. officials alleging the entity, which is an informal network of corrupt military officials, not a formal cartel, is led by Maduro himself. Pete Hegseth signaled that the terror designation provides, quote, new options, end quote, for dealing with Maduro, including the possibility of military action, which the president has not ruled out. Maduro's government categorically denied the cartel's existence, calling the accusation a ridiculous fabrication intended to justify an illegal intervention against Venezuela.
Yeah, I tend not to agree with the Maduro administration on, anything, because Maduro is, a kleptocrat and a autocrat and all the bad kind of crats that you might want to assigned to somebody who operates like he does. But they're right about this. This is a fabrication, and it's nonsense, and it's designed to serve as a predicate to certain kinds of action. First of all, the Trump administration is going through this process of saying, well, if you're a cartel or you're dealing drugs, you are a narco-terrorist, and assigning the terrorist label to it. Of course, that's nonsense. You can be a bad person without being a terrorist. But the thing is, most bad people like that end up being addressed by police agencies, not by military agencies. It's when you put the terrorist label on it that you can say, okay, well, let's get that carrier battle group out there. Let's deal with them like we dealt with ISIS or like we dealt with Al-Qaeda or other kinds of terrorist groups. It is a complete fabrication, but it tips the hand. They want to take military action, and they're coming up with very, very flimsy legal arguments to enable them to do so.
The Department of Defense has launched a review into Senator Mark Kelly, a retired Navy captain, after President Trump accused him and other Democrats of encouraging service members to refuse illegal orders, prompting allegations of misconduct under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Kelly said he first learned of the investigation from social media and condemned the probe, as well as Trump's call for his arrest or execution, as an intimidation tactic aimed at silencing lawmakers. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Kelly is the only target because he remains subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a military retiree, and the review could result in administrative penalties or potential recall for court-martial.
This is disgusting. But, in some ways, I kind of almost welcome it. Great idea for the Trump administration to go after a genuine hero, a man who is a military hero, who is an astronaut, who's flown into space on 4 different missions, whose wife is a hero, who survived an assassination attempt. And he has stood by her and helped her recover. Somebody who is widely revered, unlike, drunken Pete Hegseth, right? Unlike the frat boy who runs the Defense Department. But it's worse than that, because the military is full of people who respect the likes of Mark Kelly and do not respect Hegseth. In fact, no defense secretary in our lifetimes has done more to damage his relationship with the leaders of the military than Hegseth. Witness the event at Quantico, the absurd political theater that he subjected leading generals and admirals to. This is, a huge political miscalculation. It is a huge miscalculation in the context of the operations of the Department of Defense, in the context of Pete Hegseth trying to maintain his role even as Secretary of Defense. Many people have already speculated that he would be one of the first ones out of the administration. But of course, there's more to it here. Mark Kelly violated no law. Indeed, Mark Kelly called for upholding the law. Essentially, what Hegseth and the White House are saying is that people shouldn't honor their oaths of office. They shouldn't honor the Constitution. They don't understand the fundamental tenets on which civilian control over the military is based. And they're, putting out there this idea that anything the president says, every order he gives, is by definition a legal order. Well, that's a slippery slope, and we already know it's a slippery slope because we've seen the president do things like order, these boats to be killed in international waters without the benefit of any kind of due process, the boats to be destroyed, that is. And, you do have a potentially illegal invasion of Venezuela pending. And I think that's why the administration is so hypersensitive here. They know many of the orders they are currently giving or intend to give are illegal. And this effort by these members of Congress who had served in the military and the intelligence community to draw attention to this and to say to the military, honor your oath, follow the law, irritates them because it calls out a real glaring area of weakness and moral and ethical failure on their part. And that's it. That's 5 stories. That's it for today. It's Tuesday. Tomorrow is Friday because Thursday is Thanksgiving. And if Thursday is Thanksgiving, then Wednesday is Friday because, I don't know. It's very complicated. Holiday arithmetic is very complicated. What I know is this. We've got all the rest of our other podcasts being done. Words Matter, for example, which is normally done on Thursday, is being done later today. And we're also doing another Still of Consciousness today. And then we're also doing Deep State Radio at some point tomorrow morning. And so you'll get everything that you're expecting here. If you haven't gone and listened to this week's episode of Still of Consciousness, which focuses on how AI is being used by governments, I really suggest you do. It's a really, really interesting discussion. So join us for that. Join us for the others. And if you like what we're doing, please go to the DSRnetwork.com, click on membership. For goodness sakes, it's the holiday season. I mean, Riley, haven't you cooked up some crazy deal for everybody?
Yep. Right now you can use a code for 50% off a membership through the end of November.
What? How are we going to survive? What are you doing? You're giving away things for half price? Wow. This
for our devoted listeners.
This
I'm a man of the people.
He is drunk with power, but it's totally within his purview to make this decision. So take advantage of it. Half price. That's half the price of a latte per month, or less, given the price of coffee beans because of the fucking tariffs. Oh, I'm not going to get off on a rant on that, but this is a great opportunity to go and become a member. It's the right thing to do in the holiday spirit. There's an election year coming. You want to have access to all of our experts, plus searing, insightful commentary and everything like the movie Wicked, which we talked about earlier this week and which I looked down my nose at. And it's quite a nose, by the way. All right, everybody. We've got more to talk to you about. We'll be back. You be back. Thanks.